Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bandits Show. Back after another crazy week in the NFL. We had a lot of upsets, a lot of things that people didn't predict. And this is the 20th episode of the Bandits Show. Now, we're going to settle into a rhythm over the next few weeks, and I'm going to start the episode the same way that I started last week with my top 10 teams in the NFL. I'm going to start with number 10. I have to put my Dolphins in there. I have put them at the number 10 spot. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. Showing lots of signs of promise. They're currently sat in a playoff spot. Tua had a great game against Kyler in Arizona. Looked very poised. Other than an almost interception on the sideline, which was overturned, that was his only big mistake of the day. He had a really good game. Looked like the quarterback that came out of Alabama and the reason that he was drafted 5th overall. Then we move one spot up, and I've got the Packers who have dropped down a spot, even though they won this week. I've moved the Packers down a spot because I don't see them as this team yet that they're supposed to be. After the embarrassing loss to the Bucs, I'm going to say embarrassing loss to the Vikings, to go out and they beat up a broken 49ers team. At this point, their injured reserve list is like 3 pages long. They even the Packers knew this. They did come out afterwards and say that this isn't the same team that they played last year. They're not going to take too much pride in it, but I want to see Aaron Rodgers keep progressing and maybe beat a good team in the next few weeks, and I might. The Packers are one that I feel like we could definitely move back up very easily. I'm going to move on to number 8. Number 8 is the Seattle Seahawks, who I've moved down 4 places from last week. The Seattle Seahawks had a bad loss against Buffalo. The defense really isn't there. I've got more to say on the Seattle Bills game later. Russell Wilson had a bad game running for his life. He got hit 11 times. Then I have, at number 7, I have the Buffalo Bills staying in exactly the same place they were last time. Didn't see any much improvement. Don't see much downgrade. I'm not sold on the Bills just because they've had those weeks where they've looked a bit bad. They've not seemed to keep a consistent form, and I think you need to keep a straight line throughout the entire NFL season. And then moving down a place, even though they won, I have the Tennessee Titans. They beat the Bears, but the Bears played bad, like usual, I suppose. The Titans are still in a playoff spot. They're number 1 in the division. I think they'll make the playoffs, but they need to return to that form who they were when they went to play the Pittsburgh Steelers a few weeks ago, and they probably should have beat the Steelers a few weeks ago. Then I'm going to move on to number 5, moving up 4 places from last week. I have the New Orleans Saints after a massive win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints just dominated them. I think they went in with a great game plan. They knew they were underdogs in that game, and they showed everyone why they're probably going to win the NFC South. They're in a great place. They've got 2 wins over the Bucs now. So the Saints have moved up to my number 5 slot. I have the Ravens at number 4. The Ravens have moved up 2 slots from last week. After Lamar looked good in the second half, I think it was the second half of the fourth quarter, he was 10 for 10 on passes. The defense stepped up this week. It was always going to be a low-scoring affair because the Colts have a good defense. The Colts need a new QB. I think that's the way we should look at this now, because Philip Rivers turns the ball over too many times. If he doesn't turn the ball over, I think they win that game, although they did have turnovers. A turnover which was made by the running back, the fumble, which then led to Philip Rivers making that amazing tackle attempt on the return. And at number 3, I have the Bucs moving down a slot after an embarrassing loss to the Saints. Now, I know the Saints are lower. The team that beat them is lower. The Saints are on the up though. Maybe they'll move up again next week. We'll see. I still think the Bucs they've had some bad losses, but some really good wins. Again, a bit up and down. That's why I was comfortable moving them down. I wasn't comfortable moving them past the Ravens. I think the Ravens still need a better passing attack. I think the Saints D need some work. I think it was just a really off week for Tampa Bay. At number 2, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the only undefeated team left in the NFL, who moved to 8-0 after a weird win against the Cowboys. I think some people predicted that the Steelers would look a bit like this just after a really emotional game with the Ravens. I don't think at any point this season the Steelers will be my number 1 team in the NFL, just because the Steelers, even though they're undefeated and the defense is great, they're allowing teams to stick around for too long. Like, they let the Cowboys stick around until late in the fourth quarter. That never should have happened. They let the Ravens stick around until one play in the game. They let the Titans stick around until one play in the game. This, at some point in the season, maybe it's even the playoffs, this is going to come back to bite them, and there's going to be a team that they just can't stop in that position. You know, maybe it comes down to the Chiefs in the playoffs, and they just can't stop them. So at number 1, I have the Kansas City Chiefs putting up another great performance. So they were stopped in the run game, but Patrick Mahomes still managed to put up 4 touchdowns and work his way dead center into the MVP conversation this week, as he has 25 touchdowns and 1 interception on the season, the only QB in NFL history to do so. So that is my top 10. Just to quickly go over: 10 the Dolphins, 9 the Packers, 8 the Seattle Seahawks, 7 the Buffalo Bills, 6 the Tennessee Titans, number 5 the New Orleans Saints, number 4 Baltimore Ravens, number 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 2 the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 1 the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm bringing back the coach's hot seat after this week, even though the Jets performed admirably against a bad Patriots team, which still feels odd to say. I think Adam Gase needs to go. I feel like they're holding on to him until the end of the season for some odd reason. And as soon as the season ends, they'll probably fire him, fire the GM, get a new, well, probably not the GM, they'll fire the head coach, get a new head coach in, build a new system that works next year when they probably draft Trevor Lawrence, even though last week I said probably shouldn't. I do like Sam Darnold. And I've got Doug Marrone back, and I'm keeping it the same place that I had last time. He's at an 8 on the scale, so coach's hot seat works at 10. I think they should be fired immediately. Number 1, they're probably safe in their job. Doug Marrone, Jacksonville Jaguars. They played the Texans, who have a horrible D and are still dealing with the aftermath of the Bill O'Brien coaching era. And Doug Marrone couldn't get the win. Probably puts them in a great position to get Justin Fields. They had a rookie QB on the field who did show a bit. Maybe we'll see how he plays against some other teams, because maybe they don't need to draft a quarterback, and they could probably move that pick about and get some different players. Maybe get some wide receivers, get some linebackers, that sort of stuff, and try the best to rebuild throughout the draft. They do have one of the top 4 salary cap spaces for next year's off-season. And a new addition to the coach's hot seat for this week, I have Anthony Lynn with the Los Angeles Chargers, who every single week find a new way to win this week. It once again came down to the last second of the game, like it did against the Broncos. However, this time the Chargers were in possession of the ball. And after multiple reviews, they called a last-second touchdown incomplete. After watching the footage, it is an incomplete pass. Great defensive play by the Raiders. Anthony Lynn, now I've put him at a 4. I think injuries are hindering his defense, but he's got to start turning some of these Justin Herbert performances into wins. They've got to make stops like this. The whole bend but don't break mentality on the defense. Like you can be bad in the passing, you can be average in the passing game, average in the running game, as long as you're not letting in the touchdowns. Every now and then you're stopping for a field goal, and then you're stopping for a punt. You've got to sort of balance it. They can't go and score a touchdown every game. Justin Herbert has a massive arm. He can probably win a shootout, but this is where shootouts become a problem because they're losing more shootouts than they're winning. And the last person on the coach's hot seat, I've got Mike McCarthy, who clearly just seems to be the wrong person in Dallas. I know he's lost Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott was having an amazing season at the start, but they still weren't winning. They've got a terrible defense. Mike McCarthy does not look like the right guy to rebuild the Dallas Cowboys over the next few years. So this is it. I think I've got Mike McCarthy at an 8 on my scale. Same as Doug Marrone. He needs going, but they'll probably hold on to him until the end of the season. And I'm not so sure that he needs firing this second. He can probably stick this season out and then look in the off season, try and go and get one of those good young coaches in college football. And after that, we can move on to our bigger topics this week. So my first topic is obviously whatever the hell happened in Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of people's pick for the Super Bowl before this week, just lost 38-3 against the New Orleans Saints. First time Tom Brady has been swept by a division rival in his career. The real question is, are the Bucs a real team anymore? Because this isn't the first time this has happened. They lost bad to the Bears. They've lost badly to the Saints, and they lost badly to the Saints at the start of the year. How sure are we on this? Now, a lot of people predicted them at a 9-7 team, and maybe they'll get a playoff berth, and I think they can probably win a playoff game. But whether they win a Super Bowl, obviously Tom Brady has a 2-year contract, and next year, this is when the team's probably going to build a chemistry, because obviously at the minute it's just the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on offense, especially, are a mismatch of different pieces. You've got Leonard Fournette. I know they have Shady McCoy. They have Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, now Antonio Brown. Tom Brady was handed the worst loss of his career. He threw 3 interceptions. They kicked a field goal to get the 0 off the board at the end of the game. That's got to not. I think this game and the Bears game, and they almost lost to the Giants. But I do agree the Giants are getting better every week. If you add those games up, I think Tom Brady has to be out of the running for MVP. I don't think there's much of a way he can work his way back into this now. That's just it. I think I'd write him out of it. Especially considering obviously your top 3 candidates would be Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and now Patrick Mahomes. I mean, another Patrick Mahomes year, I suppose, is the only way you can describe it. Well, yeah, the questions now have to be asking about the Bucs. We've asked the questions about the Ravens, consistently, like, can Lamar win the big game? I know he's the GOAT, but we have to start asking those questions about Tom Brady and the Bucs. It's just reality. We can't just let it sit back. We can't just sit back and let it happen and expect that it will pick itself up. Now I'm going to move on to the Seattle and Buffalo game. Obviously, Seattle lost 44-34, I think it was, still put up a lot of points. Russell Wilson had 4 turnovers in the game, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. I think after this game leaves the MVP race wide open. He probably did have a lead in it before this game, and one bad game. He does play a couple of bad teams in the next coming weeks, so he may be able to get his season back on track. He is currently still on pace to beat the passing touchdown record by one. But the one thing I can't get over is what I've been saying for weeks is that this defense is complete garbage. They give up the same amount of passing yards per play as passing yards per play. They give up the same amount of passing yards as the Jets per play, and we all know how bad the Jets are. So, let's not rally around this team. And just like I said a few weeks ago, the Seattle Seahawks are just the 2019 Green Bay Packers. And this game against the Bills, I said this might be the game where it is like that San Francisco game for the Packers last year, where people stopped buying into the Seattle Seahawks as this Super Bowl team. And I think a fair comparison for the Seahawks this year is, for one, the 2019 Packers. They're going to win close games. They're going to win some shootouts. They have iffy D. They're going to beat up on bad teams, lose close to good teams, and when they get to the playoffs, they're probably going to come up against a team such as the Bucs, maybe such as the Saints, and they're going to get exposed completely. Is exactly how I think this is. This is a tough test this week for the Seahawks as they go and play the Rams, who will be looking to bounce back on their season after having a bye week. So this is it. I can't help but think that I was right in a sense that the Seahawks are the same team that the Packers were last year. And do you know what's even crazier? A lot of people thought that the Seahawks D was good in week one. They played against the Falcons week one, and a lot of people thought that the Seattle D was good. Jamal Adams making blitzes, and they kind of had a really good game against them. And do you remember last season, the opening game of the season was for the Packers against the Bears, when everyone thought that Packers D was really good. And at the end of the year, they just weren't top level like they needed to be. Now, the Packers D wasn't anywhere near bad last year, but it was a bit shaky in parts, and that's probably where, especially against the run game. And as you can see, the Packers are bad against the run game this year as well. I'd expect a few bad years of defense in Seattle unless they can build on something somehow. And the other side of this is this does not make the Buffalo Bills, a Super Bowl contender because they beat up on the Seahawks. Like, again, the Seahawks D is absolutely terrible. The record doesn't show you how bad their D is. You have to look at the stats to show how bad they are. So don't buy into Buffalo too much for this game. Let's watch how Buffalo play for a few weeks and then reassess Buffalo. Don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. I think they'll win a home playoff game against someone. We'll just have to see how it works out. Now, this is the point of the show. I'm going to go through my offensive player of the week. My offensive player of the week for this week was Dalvin Cook. 206 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, so through 2 weeks, he has 6 touchdowns from scrimmage. Did he also receive a touchdown this week? He may have done. Defensive player of the week, I do try and pick lesser known players, but I've gone Marcus Peters this week from the Ravens for a forced fumble and an interception. And once again, lucky bastard of the week for the second week running is Paul Bennett because of that Dalvin Cook trade from Chris, which came back to bite him this week. And going into the last lot of games, Paul Bennett had a 100-point lead in his fantasy game. Now, this has been recorded on a Tuesday. I've stayed up last night. I watched as much of the Patriots game as I could. And a lot of people are now saying, seeing a lot of reports like going around, oh, Cam Newton's back, Cam Newton's back. The Patriots can make the playoffs. I mean, statistically, the Patriots can make the playoffs if you look at other teams losing and they have to keep winning. I mean, but I think this is it. After last night, the Patriots are done. Patriots have written off their season. They're not tanking. They're just going to play out the rest of their season and try and rebuild through the draft. And for anyone who's saying Cam Newton's back, Cam Newton this year has thrown 2 passing touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not the quarterback that I want. You know, I get it. He has bad receivers. He has the same set of receivers that Tom Brady had last year. And I think Tom Brady definitely didn't put up 2 passing touchdowns. You know, and this is the thing. This Patriots team only just beat the Jets, and the Jets were making big plays. The Jets shot themselves in the foot at the end of the game, and if they hadn't thrown an interception in the 4th, which allowed the Patriots to get the score that tied it up at 27, you know, would we be talking about the Jets' first win of the season and how different the draft picks look? I know that I probably would be talking about how different the draft picks look. But rather than that, we're talking about how the Patriots' season can now just be written off. Any Patriots fan, you've got to just sit back, enjoy some games. A lot of, you know, console yourself with a lot of other NFL fans who've been in your position for quite a few years. You know, you're not making the playoffs. Just enjoy week by week football and see if you can win any of those games. Now, on the opposite side of this game, the Jets are 0-9. Unless the Jets win a game, and I think last night might have been the most winnable game for the Jets as the rest of their season, you know, then that's it. I think the Jets are going 0-16, which means the Jags get the 2nd overall pick, and the Jets get 1st overall pick and get Trevor Lawrence. I think Sam Darnold's time in New York is done. I would keep him. I think he's a good quarterback who still has a lot of potential in him. But I think this is it, especially after last night when you get the sense that Joe Flacco went in and worked the offense better than Sam Darnold had been working this offense. It is a terrible offense. He worked it better. He scored more points. Then you get the sense of, right, okay, so Darnold's done. Darnold's done that. And last week, all this stuff coming out from the Jets GM saying, oh, Darnold's our future. Everyone sort of knew it was a bit of a lie. He's their future for the next 6 games, is what they mean. So this is where it becomes interesting. So last week I did teams that should draft Trevor Lawrence. This week I'm going to talk about teams that should pick up Sam Darnold. And I'm going to start with the team they've just played against, the Patriots. If I was the Patriot, I would take a chance on Sam Darnold. I don't think the Patriots are bad enough to get a 1st or 2nd pick. They probably have enough draft picks to maybe trade up, but if I was Jacksonville, I wouldn't move out of that spot. Go get Justin Fields. And if I was the Jets, I definitely wouldn't move out of that spot unless you was actually set on keeping Sam Darnold. But the Patriots, so Sam Darnold is athletic. At least we know what he can do. He makes 1 Patrick Mahomes level throw per game. That run against the Broncos a few weeks ago still is absolutely amazing. Scrambling out, almost getting sacked, getting the touchdown. I think it was like a 50-yard touchdown. He shows that he has that special in him, and with the right coaching, Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and Belichick's been acquiring draft picks. He may look for some outside help this time and try and draft some wide receivers. Maybe that's why he's, getting high. He wants a Jamar Chase, some of these guys that are coming out of college, the wide receivers that worked with Tua, that worked with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, these guys from Clemson, LSU, Oregon, Florida, these guys, they're really good. He's very intelligent for a quarterback. He knows what he's doing. And I think he fits a Bill Belichick system really well. If Tom Brady was more athletic, no, I'm not saying he's better than Tom Brady. If Tom Brady was more athletic, more versatile running about, Sam Darnold would probably be that product. Not saying he's going to have the same career, not saying he's going to be as good, put up as many touchdowns, as many passing yards. None of that. Tom Brady's still the GOAT. But with the right coaching, he could definitely move into that system and pick up where Tom Brady left off. The defense, a lot of their defense, they had 8 opt-outs. I think it was 7 were on defense. A lot of those guys are going to be coming back this next season. If he can draft the offense well, who knows? This could be a 3-way race for the AFC East next year between the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Bills. Another team I have in here is Detroit. Don't really think Detroit are going to be in that market. I think they like Matt Stafford. I'm not too sure on it. I think Matt Patricia would have to leave because he's a defensive coach and it's his defense that's letting the team down at the minute. Their offense doesn't seem to have too much of a problem, especially when Kenny Golladay is playing. They could do with a running back. Obviously, this is what DeAndre Swift is supposed to become. There's just a few things that need building on for the Lions. It's mostly defense. I don't think they're going to be in that market, but they could take that chance. And maybe they could help him, maybe even sit for a few games, learn under Matt Stafford, someone who's been around the league for a while, and then take his chance when he gets it. Another team that could be in this conversation is Washington. I don't think Washington's going to get one of these number 1 or 2 picks. Don't think they're going to get this number 1 or this number 2 pick overall. So they're going to have to look in other places. Maybe they go and get a QB that isn't in that top 2 conversation and try and work him into something great. But I'd say your best chance is probably to look within the NFL. There might be guys such as maybe even Cam Newton reuniting with Ron Rivera. But people like Sam Darnold who are going to be coming out of New York probably. Washington's got a good defensive coach, a good defensive front. He's going to have Alex Smith on the sideline, someone who's been around the league a long time, who's played in a couple of different systems, played for a few winning teams, knows what to do, can help teach Sam Darnold some stuff. For all the evidence we have, he's a great mentor. He was the mentor to Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes was wildly talented before Alex Smith got hold of him, but maybe that advice is something that can help Sam Darnold improve in certain areas and make Washington a better team next year. The next few teams are the teams that I think are the best fits for Sam Darnold. I think the Patriots, Detroit, Washington are going to be in the conversation. Now, the teams that I think are going to, if they get him, it makes their team a lot better. And the first one, I have the Colts. Now, I think the Colts might be my number 1 in all of this. The Colts have a good defense. Could probably do with a wide receiver in the draft. A good young O-line. Some running backs that can work. What's the big problem? It's quarterback and it's Phillip Rivers. If Andrew Luck had stayed with the Colts, they'd be a playoff team right now. Guess what? He didn't. They've been looking for a quarterback ever since. If they get Sam Darnold, I think they're instantly back to being that playoff team that can win games. And they've been winning games with Phillip Rivers, so someone who's more talented than Phillip Rivers could go a long way. And then I've got Chicago. Now, Chicago have had a good enough defense. It's been shown in previous years that They know what they're doing on the defensive side. I think Matt Nagy is a good offensive coach. He's struggling in a situation where he doesn't have a wide receiver two. He doesn't have a quarterback. He has Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. Nick Foles has always been a backup QB in his life. You know, he's in a bad situation, and I hope they give him another year there. And I hope that maybe if they do go out and get Sam Darnold, it might fix a lot of their problems. You know, he'll have something to work with, and think of the talent that he'll be around in the NFC North. You know, he's going to be around Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford. And yeah, they're playing against each other, but it's always good to have like a measuring stick. You know, what was the measuring stick in the AFC East? It was Tom Brady. You know, it's a measuring stick you're never going to reach. Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, they are, if you work hard enough, they are achievable goals. You know, you can definitely go and, even if it's, you know, after games, you know, just getting the words out. You can always speak to other people who've played in Chicago, and I think he'll have a better career in Chicago than he definitely would if he stayed in New York or if he went to Patriots, Washington, or Detroit. Now, my next two, probably my most interesting, I'd say. I've got the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I love Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he is a good enough QB to win a Super Bowl. He was definitely a good enough QB to get to a Super Bowl. He was, you know, good enough in New England. And he was Tom Brady wanted him gone, so clearly everyone knows he's good. The problem is that he's injured too much. I think Kyle Shanahan's lost faith in him. And now this is where the Sam Darnold trade could pick up. Sam Darnold goes. Now this is another one. I think it's the best fit with the Colts because of the culture, coaches. I think everything fits with him. But San Francisco goes back to California. You know, he was in college in California. He goes down to San Francisco. He takes over that offense, who are going to have good running backs next year. The defense is going to be back to full health next year. Going to have the wide receivers back next year. Not only they could, if they could build something around him, I think, you know, San Francisco dominance could continue for a while. And some people might think, well, that's me saying that it's the best fit. I honestly think that the Colts is the best fit because I think the Colts are ready now with a lot of inexpensive pieces, whereas in a few years, you know, Nick Bosa is going to be expensive. Richard Sherman's contract's probably going to come up. That's going to be expensive. You know, Deebo Samuel, when he gets his contract, that's going to be expensive. Raheem Mostert, that's going to be expensive. It's probably a core that you can only keep together for a small amount of time. And New Orleans, because I think a lot of people have acknowledged, especially before the season now, we don't know at this point, that this could be Drew Brees' last year. Now, whether he wants to retire in front of fans next year or whether he wants this to be his last year is still yet to be seen. But the New Orleans Saints, in a system with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, the defense is the bit that needs work. If they could trade to get Sam Darnold, move him into the system, adds a bit more athleticism to the position, something that Drew Brees doesn't have, someone who's a bit taller. You know, this is another great fit. I know they have Jameis Winston on the bench. I'm not sure how much of an option he is for the future. Sam Darnold could definitely go in and probably take over that offense from day one. And that's it. A few things that I do want to say, just pop on the end. There's an audio version of this available on Spotify. And the Wigan Bandits have, after their first week, reached their fundraising goal of £100 for Movember. If you are wanting to take part in Movember yourself, the link will be in the description. If you are wanting to donate to the Wigan Bandits, the link will be in the description. Make sure to follow us on Facebook for when these videos get posted live, and to keep up with all the fantasy updates in the Wigan Bandits Fantasy League. Thank you everyone for watching. See ya.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe for more content from us, and check out all of our social media links down in the description: Spotify, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Remember to watch all the other content on the Bandits Show, and see you next time.